Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to have a look at the planning section of your coursework. So title design specification, but there's actually like three parts to it. So think of this as I said, the project planning part of your thing. So you finished your research now. So the last page you did was your first concepts. So now what you're going to do is once you've done all that research, it's planning out what it is you're going to do for the rest of the project. You've done all your research. Here's what I've found out. So here are the sets of targets that I'm going to set myself. Okay. Now I set up here this whole page. It's probably going to be 2-3 pages. It's worth 10 marks. So your whole research section is out of 20. This little section here is its own section that's got 10 marks attached to it. Okay. So it's all about explaining. Here's the research I've done, and here are the targets I'm going to set, and this is why I'm going to do it. Okay. Now, there's a few things that you've got to bear in mind. Okay. It's got to be measurable. Okay. What I mean by that is what you can't just say is, I'm going to make something that looks nice, or I'm going to make something that's comfortable, or that I like. Okay. You need to set yourself targets that you can actually say, have I met this point? Yes or no. Okay. And if you have, great. How did you meet it? If you haven't, no. Okay. Why not? Okay. Now, excuse me. Um, as I said on this point here, so each point must be measurable. You also need to explain how it links back to your research. So again, talking about the fact that each page of your research is relevant, and it must also link back to your client's needs as well. So these 3 points are really, really, really important. Okay, so measurable, link it back to your research, link it back to your client. Now I'm going to show you a couple of examples in a second, but these are the targets or like subheadings that you need to have. So function, target market, anthropometrics, ergonomics, size, aesthetics, materials, construction methods, finishes, safety, cost, environmental issues. Okay, so this now is what do you personally, I've got no say in how you want to set this out. Okay, these are you setting your targets for the thing that you are designing and making. Okay, for each one, what I would do is have these little subheadings. So required. Okay, so what is the main function of this thing? Who is the target market? What anthropometric data, what measurements do I need to use? What sizes must it be? Okay, what construction methods must I use? Okay, so what is required? Okay, then why? So reason. So why do you think that's the case? And that then links, the last part is your research, is link it back to a specific page in your research. So you find the reason and research are linked very, very closely together. Okay, so what is the actual target? So what is the requirement for it to succeed? So basically, in order for you to succeed at the end, you need to have done this target, and then say what that target is. This is very, very important because you will use these targets during your design development. So after each set of design development, you'll then have to say if you've met each of these targets, and then at the end of the project, once you've got your actual physical model you've produced, again, you look back on these and say if you've met them or not, which is why if I end up sending it back to you and say it's not measurable enough, it needs to be, you need to have to be able to say, have you met this point, black and white, yes or no, how or why. Okay, so you got to really avoid really fluffy sort of, I'm going to just make something that is kind of nice. Okay, is okay, I'm designing something for someone that's got this disability. That means I must be using these exact sizes, or I must be using this exact data set, or I must be using this exact material, or it must be made in this way exactly. Okay, so you need to put yourself out there a little bit and say it needs to be, and then whatever that exact point is. The next part is your design brief. So that's the design specification is the main part of it. You'll find a design brief. Now, most people probably would think of the design brief as it goes at the start of the project. So design brief now, think about it as like what, like your mission statement of, here's like in a statement, in a paragraph, what is it you are hoping to achieve? Okay, so your brief should be what is it you're hoping to achieve. Your specification are the targets broken down to make you achieve that brief. And again, it has to make sure it's challenging, it has to link back to your research, and has to link back to your client's needs and your wants. So what is it you're hoping to achieve in a sentence? Think of it like elevator pitch. Is if someone came to you and you had to just sum up in your, like, what's your project you're going to do? Here's what I'm hoping to achieve. Okay. And then the last part is your Gantt chart, which is your time plan. So if you've never done a time plan or a Gantt chart before, in Excel, if you start typing in Gantt chart, they've got loads of templates in there that you can use. So you will have from October half term, which is when we started the actual research itself, until Easter of the second year for the whole thing to be finished. That's 50 weeks. Okay. So you need to be mapping out in that entire 50 weeks. And obviously, we've already started, so you have to retroactively go back a little bit and fill in the parts we've already done. Is how long are you going to assign, like for each little section needs to be done? So, how long are you going to spend designing it? How long are you going to spend making models? How long are you going to spend manufacturing the part? How long are you going to spend doing X, Y, and Z? Okay. So, a couple of examples to show you. So, this is Izzy who was doing the architecture one, floodplains. So she's got all the specification here, so all of her targets that she wants to achieve and why and how it links back to her research. Then she's got a design brief. So the easiest way to think about it is your fan design brief is what exactly are you planning to achieve and why. And then the specification are those targets broken down a little bit more specifically of this is how I'm going to meet. If I meet all these points, I'll then meet my design brief. And then time plan, quite difficult to fit it onto one page, but it is doable. But it will go over quite a long thing. So Izzy, and in the end, didn't end up using a template. She kind of made her own one up. So you break it down into research, design, making, evaluating, testing, and then how long you've got. So it does go up to 50 weeks, and then basically each individual page in your folder, each job, and then how long are you going to spend doing it. So what at the minute you'll say how long you're going to estimate it takes, and at the end of the project, you'll then fill in the actual time of how long you've actually spent on it. So basically, if you said you're going to spend 6 weeks um, making a certain part of it, and it actually took you 4 weeks, and then you've got an extra 2 weeks to do another part, or maybe you thought one job was going to take you 2 weeks and it's taking you 8 weeks. Okay, so it's all about how you like plan out your time. Another example, again, I'll show you Will's for the furniture. So he talked about his target, specification point, justifying it, and then linking back to where it came from his research. Again, making it really easy for the examiner to sort of like you can see he's color coded it so it's really, really obvious to the examiner. There's the target, there's his reason for doing it, and there's where it's linked to his research as well. So you want to make it super, super obvious to the examiner where they can find those marks for you. Okay, so just remember, brief, spec, Gantt chart, 10 marks as a whole because it's just that project planning sort of part. Specification are those targets with these headings that you need to have. If you meet all those points, then it's a case of like, this is my design brief, this is what I'm going to achieve or planning to achieve, and your Gantt chart is your time plan of, okay, I've got 50 weeks, here's what I've got to do. Okay, so that is your spec brief and Gantt chart. Hopefully that made sense. If you've got any questions, please let me know.